Hello, everyone. This is Eric from the Lakeside Gamer, and I wanted to briefly highlight this new Axis and Allies Anniversary Edition Deluxe map that is created by Renegade Games. This is something that they are doing that is fairly new now. They've got the Anniversary Edition map as well as the global map. And what they do is instead of using a traditional board, they put the board onto a mat. So you can see this, the surface is very different. And the other thing that they do with this is they make it 20% larger than the actual game board. So it's, color is very vivid. But the best part of it is it makes it so the territories are larger for the gameplay. So this is what it looks like when it's set up. Now I'm actually playing a game with this, and we're on the Japan turn of the first round. So we've already had a couple things happen within the game. So it's not the beginning of the game setup, but this is what the board looks like for anyone who has Anniversary and might be interested in actually using it. Or if you're in a position like me where I never had the Anniversary edition of Axis and Allies. Unfortunately, the game was out of print when I became aware of its existence. And this has been a version that I've wanted to play for a long time. The significant differences between this and some of the more traditional versions like 1941, 1942 is Italy has its own team as well as China. Now, if you play the global edition of Axis and Allies, you know that those teams are present. But one thing I like about this versus global is first of all, the setup is a lot less than the global, and overall the gameplay is a lot quicker, more like a regular Axis and Allies game. Another thing I want to make note of is I bought this mat when I went to Gen Con, and based on talking to some of the other players playing it, I watched a lot of the Axis and Allies World Championship tournament, which was played with the Anniversary Edition, and sometimes the regular board was used, but some of the players were using this mat, and I was really impressed with just the overall look of it, the feel of it. It seemed to make for a better game at the tournament, so that made me think that it was a good idea to pick it up. The thing is, I didn't want to buy the full game because I already have a lot of copies of different Axis and Allies games, and that includes Pacific and Europe 1940. So I already have all the pieces for Global Edition, and what I discovered is I didn't need any other pieces. Everything here is from other copies of Axis and Allies. So if you have Global 1940, so meaning you have Pacific 1940 and Europe 1940, you have everything you need to play this game. Now, for me, I also have many other older editions, so I've got the nifty little buildings versus having the little chips that represent the industrial complexes. So you'd have to work out those things, but otherwise, pretty much everything you need comes within the box for the Global Edition. Now, that's all the pieces. There are a few things that I had to figure out. First of all, I had to figure out what the setups were for each of the two versions that come at the Anniversary. There's a 1941 setup, which the board is printed in a way where 1941 is where you're playing the game. But there's also a 1942 setup where the Axis have taken a lot of territories, and so you have a lot more of these Japanese and German pogs out in the game when you play that version. But I had to know what those setups are, so I had to go find those. So, once I was able to get a hold of those, I had that information. Also needed information about the objectives for the different sides, because you can get bonus IPCs, and I needed to know the turn order and those were the only other things that weren't really included. And the nice thing is, for bonus objectives and turn order, you could actually find the rule book online, and if you have the rule book for the anniversary edition, you have that information, and so you can make use of that. But in terms of mobilization, all of the costs and the attack and defense rolls for the units are on the mat here. There's research and development in this game, and on the mat it's got what those things are. A lot of these should be familiar to players who've played other versions that have this, and if you're not familiar with this, the rule book also goes through how to play that. Now, the one unit I did notice we had some trouble with was the AAA for the Italians, because there is in the global version of Axis and Allies, the anti-aircraft guns are a part of the board. So, for me, since I have many other versions, I've got, for many of these sides, both the AAA here and the artillery, so I was able to make use of that. But if you ran into a situation where Global doesn't have both the artillery and AAA for any particular faction, what we're doing is I'm just taking one of the pogs here and just putting a gray anti-aircraft gun. And again, if all you have are the little gray chips, you could just put that on top to represent it, because there really aren't that many AAA cannons here. And for Italy, they've got a piece that represents that, but that's actually their artillery in that game. So those are the things that I had to do for this. But again, I bought the mat because I already had many other versions, including Global. So if you're someone who already has the Global version of Axis and Allies, and you don't want to buy the entire game for Anniversary, but you do have interest in playing that version as a smaller version of Global or an upgraded version of 1942, then you definitely should look into getting this mat. The playing surface is a lot better than the boards that I already had, so I'm really happy about that. And now we could try a version that I'm enjoying so far in my gameplay, and hearing from other players, including players who play year after year in Gen Con. They only have had good things to say about this version of the game. So that's the Anniversary Edition Deluxe map made by Renegade Games. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment, and I hope you have a great day.